So it's come to my attention that there is not a single video out there on how to disassemble or reassemble a sealed cartridge bearing hub. So I already took it apart, and doing so was extremely frustrating because I didn't know what was inside or how to take it apart. So I'm going to show how to assemble it, and hopefully you can deduce from its assembly how you might want to take it apart. So this is a fairly standard, I would say, fairly standard sealed cartridge bearing Freehub from a generic Giant branded hub, and it has some very standard. The problem with sealed cartridge hubs is, of course, that they are pretty specific, but the bearings inside of them are extremely standard. So these ones are Indro brand. I got them at my local bike shop, but even if you can't get these, they're very, very common. The actual standard is printed on the rubber of the or on the seal on the side usually of the cartridge bearing, and you can take that into any machine shop, and they should have that bearing in stock. So in order to do this, you're going to need a few tools to put it together. Of course, the tools you'll need to pull it apart may be similar. You'll definitely need these ones, but maybe others as well. So you'll need either a vise or a really sturdy seat clamp. You're going to need a socket set. I use something that fits the bearing, the outside race of the bearing, nicely, so that you can press it into place. You want to avoid putting pressure on the inside race if you can, just because it can damage the bearing, especially new ones. The old ones you don't have to worry about as much when you're pushing them out, but the new ones you kind of want to take better care of them, obviously. Mine actually had, it turns out, a snap ring inside of it, one of these guys. So in order to remove that, you really do need a snap ring tool, and this is a fairly fancy one. You can get cheaper ones, but they come in handy, obviously, for if you're doing any fork maintenance or if you work on your car at all. So it's a good thing to have. And of course, some grease just to keep things running a little smoothly, just to let them slide in and out a little bit more easily. So that's the first thing that we'll do, is I'm going to just lube it up a bit, just so that things will hopefully go a little more smoothly. Okay, let's try the first race. So I'm going to drop that guy in there, and of course we want to keep it as square as possible. Line that up, of course, with the socket in place and the Freehub in place and everything lined up really nicely. You want to make sure that it stays square. You want to push it into place. In my case, it's going to push past where the first bearing goes. Should be fairly easy. There it goes. And let's push it again into place for the second place where the second bearing goes, which is where I want this one. And push that into place. So turn her down. And sounds like she's pushing into place quite nicely, and it's pretty obvious when you bottom out. Oops. When you've reached where you need to go. Okay, so there we go. Alright, so now to put the snap ring into place. So you put it on the tool, obviously, you slide it in there. And then you can hear it go click. when it's in place. So there we go. Which was relatively easy. That's nice. And then I have a spacer between the two bearings, so I'm going to just drop that into place, and that literally just sits there. There's nothing that really holds it in place, except for the axle, which isn't there yet. So that's just going to go right there, and then I need my second bearing. So, again, same idea. Kind of push it into place. Not so happy with that. It's not coming back out now, so a bit of effort, so I'm going to just have to push it. You really want to keep things as square as possible. Put that into place. So you can see that the socket's at an angle because the bearing is right now at an angle. So we want to try to push that bearing into place, and there she goes. There we go. And there's that second bearing pushed into place. Of course, the I'll have to find an axle or something to push that spacer over. There we go. There we go. Okay. I'm okay with that floating around in there. Hopefully when we put everything else together, it just gets pushed in place and everything's good. The last thing, of course, is just the seal, which just goes on top and just literally pushes into place. There we go. And that's it. That was pretty quick, pretty easy. I'll probably give it one more squeeze just to lock that spacer in place, but other than that, Bob's your uncle.